Hi, this is Rowan Robertson, and you're watching The Metal Voice.
Welcome to The Metal Voice. Today on the show, Rowan Robertson, former guitarist for Ronnie James Dio, as well as guitarist for DC4 and Bang Tango. Rowan, what's going on, man?
Not too much, Jimmy, not too much. Just doing a little recording here in my home studio.
It's been 5 years since the passing of Ronnie James Dio. His birthday just came up not too long ago. I thought, why not have Rowan Robertson, who played on Lock Up the Wolves, come on the show, talk a little Dio, and you could also tell us what you're doing at the present time as well. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Good idea.
Let's dive right into it. The Dio years. All right, we all know the story. I don't want you to repeat the story. I know you repeated it many times. You send your demo tape to the Dio fan club. Somebody listens to it, either Wendy Dio, the band, or Ronnie James Dio himself. They like the tape. They bring you to the audition. What was your initial reaction when you got the call from management, or from Dio himself, I'm not sure, saying, hey man, we want to audition you for the guitarist of Ronnie James Dio, the band Dio? What was your reaction?
Well, I was, when Wendy called me up, I was obviously pretty surprised and pretty shocked, but I was kind of a bit of a cocky kid. So when Wendy asked me, she says, "How would you feel playing in front of 20,000 people?" And I said, "Well, all right, I guess." But she said, Ronnie would like to see you play. How would you feel if we brought you out? And of course I was thrilled, but I was very nervous. I really got, quite nervous about it. And my dad had some good words of wisdom for me, and he said, look, you're getting a free vacation to go and play with your heroes in Los Angeles, so it's already a great situation, so just have fun. And when I got there, the first thing that Ronnie said to me in the audition is, he said, I want this to work. I really want this to work. And we played through a couple of songs, and I remember looking over and seeing Jimmy Bain smiling away and grinning away, and I thought, well, I must be doing something right.
And you were 17 years old at this time, right?
Yeah.
The 17-year-old, shows up with a bunch of 30-year-old, pushing 40-year-olds back then, right?
Yeah.
I mean, was there anybody saying, hey man, what is Dio doing here? I mean, wait a second, we're bringing a 17... I mean, was there any... Did you feel any of that tension?
Yeah, there was a lot of that. I mean, obviously there was a lot of interest for a young kid, being thrust into the limelight. But at the same time, there were, what's this kid doing? This is like, there were, there was some of that. For sure, yeah. And I think a couple of the publications like to, say Ronnie was too old and what's he, getting this kid in the band and all this stuff. But just a little sideline to it. It was a really positive experience.
So you sat down with Dio and you started writing the material. Was it with the band? Was it just with Dio, him writing the words? What was the songwriting process like?
Well, firstly, when we did the audition,
yeah.
And I was playing these songs like Rainbow in the Dark and Last in Line, which I just loved so much.
Me too.
And I just loved playing them with him, and I was just so full of enthusiasm for it. And then it came time to do the first session to write.
Yeah.
And I said to Ronnie, can we play Last in Line? And he goes, no, we're not going to play Last in Line. And he says, we're going to write. I said, I don't know if I can do this. And he says, trust me, you can do it. You're going to be fine. So to answer your question, the writing process would go, usually it would be sparked from a guitar riff, or, well, mostly a guitar riff, and in some cases maybe a bass riff or a keyboard riff. But Ronnie used to like to work from a riff first, which usually he came to his guitar player for. So what I would have to do, what the guitarist would have to do, is come up with loads of different riffs, and he'd play them one by one, and no, don't hear anything. Oh, what was that? And then what we would do is we would jam the riff, and sit there and stand there and go, well, where can we take it? Anyone got any ideas? Is there a chord change? And this is where Ronnie would, lead the ship, and which of course he did, writing all the time. He was definitely in control of it. And so we'd find, let's say, 2 parts, and then you'd record them, part A, part B, and record them on a boombox. And Ronnie would take them home overnight and come up with, let's say, a vocal melody, or he might already have titles sitting around. I remember he came in a couple of times with titles. He came in once and said, I've got it. Title of the album, Lock Up the Wolves. So he would, sometimes he'd have a title. The riff for Lock Up the Wolves, he actually came up with on the guitar.
Let me ask you this. Was it just you and him always? Or once you've got the core idea, the core riff and the core vocal line and I guess a song title, then you would bring it to the band? Is that how it worked?
No, Ronnie wrote with the band all the time.
Wow.
That type of music, he used to say, this type of music comes from a band in a room.
Okay.
That's where it comes from. And that's not to say that I came up with every riff. I think most of the guitar riffs on there I came up with, but Jimmy Bain came up with riffs, and let's say, Vinny might come up with an idea where to go into a certain beat or something like that.
Sure.
But Ronnie kept he got most of his initial idea from his guitar player, usually. Unless he had a riff himself, as I said, he might have a guitar riff himself.
Okay, in 10 seconds, I'll just throw out a couple of tracks off the album. Just give me your impression of, at that moment when you're recording the album, okay? Wild One. What was your impression? What do you remember about Wild One?
Well, Wild One was special to me because I was looking for a special guitar riff, and it just popped out one day in rehearsal, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And Ronnie liked it, and I knew it was good.
Sure.
So that was special to me. I figured, I thought that I could put my mark on it, on somehow, my stamp. And so that one was always, I thought a success for me.
Hey Angel. Was anything that you remember, anything special?
That was actually another one where I thought I could put my stamp on it as a riff.
Sure.
Because I was really happy with that riff. I thought it was, quite, sort of unique.
Lock Up the Wolves. Now that is my favorite track on the album because it's a mid-paced, and man, his voice really shines. There's a lot of space in that song, and I think everybody shines on that one.
Well, what I think special about that track for me is, as I said, Ronnie came up with the guitar riff for that.
Okay.
So that one, I think, captures that real dark Dio Sabbath magic. The alarm clock at the beginning, actually, of that track was keeping Jens up all night. Jens came downstairs and, I can't sleep. I had to put the alarm clock out of my room. So they ended up recording the alarm clock for the beginning.
Evil on Queen Street. Now, there's a Canadian reference. Evil on Queen Street. I mean, okay, so I read it online. There's a Canadian, there's some sort of hamburger or sandwich related to this.
That's right, yeah. They were doing much music. Dio was doing much music. And, eating in that deli, and there was a sandwich called Evil on Queen Street.
Pretty interesting. At what point... So, I mean, you had Vinny Appice, you had, Jimmy Bain. At what point, and Claude was there too, and at what point did the band shift? I mean, you started your auditions with the core band, right? With the Dio band.
Well,
and then suddenly...
not only did I audition with them, but the whole album was written with the original lineup.
Yeah.
With the exception of the first lineup change was when Jimmy Bain was out and Teddy Cook was in, and that was during the writing process. It was 10 months writing process, and about halfway through, I'd say that change happened.
Sure.
And Claude, but Vinny stayed right to the end of the writing sessions. In fact, Vinny left 2 weeks before the recording, so the whole album was written with Vinny. And Ronnie scrambled to get Simon or Ainsley Dunbar in at the end.
Yeah.
And as far as the reasons for it, you'd really have to talk to Wendy, really, because Ronnie's not here.
It's shocking. They wrote the album, and then suddenly the band. The majority of the band left. Was it because the grunge movement was they didn't see? Were they not happy with the material? Were they not happy with the situation? Was it just because?
It was a difficult time. I know it was a difficult time for Ronnie because you could feel the changes in the industry, and it was obvious that, looking back, I didn't know at the time, but looking back, it was obvious that it was coming to an end.
Yeah.
And I think Ronnie felt the pressure of that, and he, I don't know whether he thought he should try and change with it or do. Well, actually, no. That's probably talking too much because I don't want to talk for him. I don't know, but
understood.
But as far as the lineup changes, I don't think it had anything to do with that. I think it was something that that Ronnie decided was for some reason that he felt that he needed to make a change. I think, with the exception of Vinny, who left for World War III.
So the album's completed, and the production is probably one of the best productions of all the Dio albums, if you ask me. It's a great production. There's some hits there. The industry's changing. The album's released. It does chart around the world. Probably not as well as the first 3 albums. But what was your reaction? Did you want it to be a hit? Were they disappointed? Did the record company say, yeah, it's doing okay? What was the feedback from the record company? Was there pressure?
Oh, I think. Well, I was certainly a little disappointed that it really didn't amount to a whole lot in its first days of selling. Though I think it still sold something like 400.
Yeah, to today's standards, that's amazing.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was the old big industry. But as far as what Dio was getting back from the record company, it was pretty much non-existent. That it would, you had Soundgarden and you had all these other. They just weren't interested anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Even at that time, I think touring for him was quite hard. And we had great fun. We had a great time.
Of course.
But always behind the scenes was they weren't getting any support. And yeah.
So you're out supporting the album. You're having the time of your life. You're a young lad. It's a dream come true. And then suddenly, it all stops. You're thinking, okay, we'll start the cycle all over again. However, Dio gets the call for Black Sabbath. Yo, Dio, can you come sing with us again? Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler. Okay, listen, if I was in your shoes, I'd be kind of pissed. I go, I just started with Dio here. What happened? What's going on?
Well, I wasn't pissed at all.
That's just me.
No, not in the slightest. Geezer came out to see us on the road, to see Ronnie on the road, and I got to play Neon Nights with him and Ronnie, which is incredible.
Wow.
And then when the tour ended and Wendy told me that Ronnie decided that it was right for him to, do Sabbath again, I was a little surprised, I guess, but I wasn't at all upset about it.
Okay, so now you're waiting in the wings now, right? Did you start? Online I'm reading, you started writing some material for the new album with Dio in mind, the Dio material for the next album. how much of that was demoed? What did you actually do? Have you written any songs with Dio in mind or getting riffs ready?
No, there was the only, the only thing that happened is I went to his house a couple of times, knocked around a couple of riffs, and I think that was probably in that decision-making time when he was trying to decide what he was going to do.
Okay.
And that's all. There was nothing recorded.
Was there any material from Lock Up the Wolves that never saw the light of day?
Well, there's 2 songs that I've got of just boombox recordings that didn't make the record, but I've played them for Wendy, and she said that the quality isn't good enough to release them.
Is Dio on those tapes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is the band on the tapes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, can you name the tracks? What they're called, at least?
Yeah. Well, one was called Hell Wouldn't Take Her, and one was called River Between Us. And they neither of them made the album, and I know that Craig, for instance, has rehearsal stuff that wouldn't have made the albums that he made with Ronnie, but I think out of respect, he's not going to be just putting them out there,
So, I mean, okay, I know there's legalities involved here, but you ever thought of releasing these? And again, it would be on a huge banner saying just demo tapes of Dio, right? Or do you need the permission from Wendy Dio? I mean...
I would, yeah. I wouldn't want to tread on anyone's toes if she... Yeah.
How about live recordings during that tour? Is there any quality live recordings?
There's 2 quality ones. One is was done for radio in Florida, and I've got that, and one was done for TV in Germany, and I don't know if the whole set was recorded, but there's high quality TV. It's on the internet. Yeah,
I've seen the video on the internet, but I've never heard. Is there also a live recording that you have on the net too?
No, I don't think that one's on the net. No, that live one.
Is it good quality?
Yeah, it was recorded.
It's not on a boombox, right?
No, it was recorded for radio, like proper recording.
So that'll probably see the light of day. I'm sure she has got a copy of that, right?
Yeah, that should see the light of day. Yeah, I've got it somewhere.
So Dio joined Sabbath. That's short-lived. You're kind of doing your own things, trying to start a band, and then Dio, he's coming back to the Dio band. And were you sitting by the phone, kind of saying, I wonder if he's going to call me. I'd love it if he would call me. Because personally, I'm a very impatient guy, by the way, Rowan. And I would want him to call me. And if he didn't call me, I would have called him.
Right.
Were you waiting for that call?
Well, I'll tell you what happened is in short,
okay,
he never asked.
Okay.
And I'll tell you the situation is I put together a band with Oni Logan.
Sure.
And it took us years to about 3 years, and we got a deal. We got a deal in Atlantic, and at that time, when Ronnie was putting Dio back together, I just got the deal Atlantic with Oni, and we were just making the record, and that's it. So I mean, I was obviously excited about that, and Ronnie never asked. So that's it.
In retrospect, looking back, would you have called him to ask him, hey man, I'm available, I'm free, I can do it?
Well, no, because I'd put my lot in with 3 other guys that had put years of their life into something, and we were about to see, what would happen with that.
All right. Okay.
But I do think to myself, wow, I wish I could have done another record with him. And now at an older age, when I feel I could have given him, more. But the opportunity I had was incredible, and I'm really fortunate for that.
Then you moved on. I mean, okay, we'll fast forward a little bit to DC4, which is Jeff Duncan and his brothers, right? Who've been around for a while. Who's also an Armored Saint, who's actually been on our show. I've interviewed him.
Oh yeah.
Jeff's a great guy, and
Jeff's brother.
And you're also playing in Bang Tango. Now here's the reformation or the reunion of Bang Tango, and they have a documentary out. You want to tell me?
Yeah.
And I mean, here's the funny thing about the documentary. It says it's a Drew Forte film. 3% of all bands in the 1980s were successful. 97% failed. This is the story of the 97%. Bang Tango, Attack of Life.
Yeah, that, I guess, I watched the movie with Joe,
Yeah.
the singer,
Yeah.
and Drew
Okay.
at the Chicago premiere of the movie.
Yeah.
And Joe got up at one point and stormed out of the room.
He didn't like it?
Joe got up at one point and stormed out of the room, and I was like, "Oh, Joe's pissed off," And then afterwards, he had his arm round Drew. "Oh man, I was only kidding. So I think Joe feels okay with the movie, but he also feels a little bit frustrated that he feels a little bit misrepresented. And as for the 97% that failed, I mean, I think all documentaries have to tell a story, and whether that was rude of Drew to say that or not, I don't know. True.
So is this going to be released on DVD? Is it going to be, or is it released already on DVD? Is it going to be showing anywhere? What's going on?
I'm pretty sure Drew's going to get it, try and get it into like Sundance and all that kind of stuff.
And what's your opinion on the documentary?
I thought it was very good.
Okay. And you appear in it?
Yeah, just 2 little seconds.
No commentary?
I think the question that I answered that got in was, I said something about that a lot of the metal guys, found it quite difficult in the grunge years. I think that's about all I said.
Okay. And now that you're playing with the band, are you a full-time member? Are you touring with them? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm a full-time member. They're in Arizona and I'm in LA.
Okay.
But the next thing we've got is August 15th at the, and it's a big show in the old Irvine Meadows. That's it, Irvine Meadows.
Is Bang Tango the headliner, or are they just one of the?
No, it's all the Cat Club bands. It's like, Fast Pussycat, a load of bands are doing it. And then we're probably going to make another record.
Okay, good.
So yeah, and I get on with Joe great, and the guy's great. So I'm having we've had some really good times so far. So
all right, well there you have it. Rowan Robertson, former guitarist of Ronnie James Dio, DC4, and present guitarist for Bang Tango, and they have a new documentary out called Attack of Life. Rowan, thanks for being on the show.
Jimmy, thanks for having me.
All right, we'll talk soon, okay?